They say no news is good news. They also say even bad PR is good PR. We'll talk about that and much more on this episode of The Crude Truth.
In 1901, at Spindletop Hill near Beaumont, the future of Texas changed dramatically as, like a fountain of fortune, thousands of barrels of oil burst from the earth towards the sky. Soon, Detroit would be cranking out Model Ts by the millions, and America was on the move, thanks to the black gold being produced in Texas. Now, more than a century later, the vehicles are different, but nothing else has truly changed. Sure, there may be many other alternative energy sources like wind and solar and electric. But let's be honest, America depends on oil and entrepreneurs, and if the USA is truly going to be independent, it has to know the crude truth.
This episode of The Crude Truth is brought to you by Oil and Gas Workers Association, Sandstone Group, Air Compressor Solutions, Basin Fluids, and the Fuel Pros.
Well, thank you so much for coming back to another episode of The Crude Truth. Please like and subscribe, and also leave only but 5-star great comments on there. Today, I am coming from the newest studio in the Crude Truth collection of awesome studios. We are here in Southlake, Texas at what we would call our official podcast studio. For our listeners out there, what we have is basically an awesome room here in this part of the studio where we've got several chairs. Everybody's sitting up straight. Everybody's got just a microphone. So it's that more traditional look of what these days you're seeing probably on YouTube, like when you watch The Crude Truth, of people talking. They have their microphones. Everybody has a microphone right in front of them. And by everybody, let me introduce my guests today. They are probably DFW's premier team of public relations here in Dallas-Fort Worth, spanning Austin, here in Southlake, all the way even getting into the Houston areas possibly. I want to introduce Jeff Crilley and Sarah Crilley. How are you guys doing?
Hey.
Thrilled. And I'm thrilled that you got me over to our Southlake studio. We've had this for about 6 weeks, and Sarah says, when are you coming?
Yeah.
When are you coming? And so we're here, and this is beautiful. Sarah,
Thank you, Ray. Well, thank you, Dad. I don't remember the last time you and I were interviewed together, so it's a little surreal to have one of our podcasters interview us. We don't get this every day.
I get nervous because her energy is so much higher than mine, so I actually have to like bump it up.
You say that, and I cannot disagree, because first of all, your energy, you walk into your office there at the Dallas studio, and it is boom, hey, how are you? But when you see Sarah, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like, how is this possible? So, I mean, whatever it is, you have transferred to just that positive energy that you have, and to Sarah, and it just even has come out even more.
I always say I'm the original, she's the copy, but the copy is much brighter than the original.
Aw, Dad.
It is true. Yeah. Sometimes they do say, like, hey, man, can the copy can be better than the original.
That's right.
And
that's right.
But no, I wanted to get you guys on. First of all, I want to say thank you guys so much. I've been doing this now for a little over a year because of you, Jeff.
Thank you.
And well, I guess thank you. I don't know if I should be thanking you more than anything else. And it's just exciting that you guys are continuing to expand the studio space. And over the last year in Fort Worth and in Dallas, I get nothing but compliments about the studio. It is, oh my gosh, what a great studio. And I call my podcast a TV show, which I have from the beginning, because, hey, we're on camera. Everybody has a camera. We spend a few minutes dialing them in, making sure that I at least half as good as you guys do today here on TV, but they just always talk about, wow, this is a great studio. They're expecting me to show up with barely a camera and, maybe a little laptop. And no, when you come on The Crude Truth, you've got the whole nine experience, to the nines, I would say, or to the Ritz, if you will. And it's because of you guys at Real News PR.
Well, thank you. And I want to give Sarah the glory. I'll tell you how this whole division started. Is Sarah comes to me maybe 4 years ago and says, Daddy, we need to start a podcast division. And I remember laughing at her because, we do news. We get people on Fox and CNN and the Wall Street Journal. I said, Sarah, who listens to podcasts? Yeah. And she says, my generation does, Dad. All those kids jogging on the Katie Trill. It's not music. You got to trust me. So I give her my credit card. I said, don't go crazy. She spent about $3,000 on little GoPros and a board and microphones. And pretty soon this division started to take off. Yeah. My memory is first month, 5 shows, second month, 10 shows, third month, 15 shows. Wow. Now it got my attention. And I said, what would happen if we spent a little money? And so to date, we've spent about $1.5 million on television studios. And I would put our studios up against commercial television now. And that's all because I believed in my daughter. I didn't dismiss her idea. And I think there's probably a lesson for all entrepreneurs is some entrepreneurs are quick to say no. Yeah. And it's okay to say yes. If you're going to make mistakes, make small mistakes. Yeah. And so, I guarantee you, Mark Cuban, every company he's ever invested in has not been successful. He takes care of his core business, but he's invested in stuff that doesn't work out. So if you're going to make a mistake, make a small mistake.
Well, before that's exactly basically the same thing my father says, like, hey, you've got to invest as an entrepreneur. And he goes, if I had all the money that I invested in bad projects, I wouldn't even have half the money that I have in everything that I've done over time in the good projects. But, moving, Sarah, first of all, this new studio looks awesome. I mean, we are here in a much more casual setting where we can just sit here, kind of shoot the breeze, if you will. Southlake is your baby. Fort Worth is your baby. As my listeners know, I am a Fort Worth guy through and through, born and raised right here, born and raised in Fort Worth. And, our Pecos Country Operating, we're out of here. And, but I do go to Dallas, but that Fort Worth studio is where most of mine are shot. And now the Southlake one where I've already got 3 more lined up. Let's talk about that and what you're trying to bring over to the Fort Worth area.
Sure. Well, we couldn't have dreamed where we're at today, but I think we need to have bigger dreams because here we are. I'm so excited that we've expanded to Tarrant County, and we were frustrated publicists. We didn't have the creative control over the set design, and we were constantly trying to get our clients on the news and figure out, all right, if we get them in the news, are they going to be happy? What do we have going on? There's only so much creative control a publicist has. And now we have all these studios that we can play, and Dad's a former journalist and we hire former journalists. And so to be able to see them in the seat of just, there's no rules. No. Got to look great, sound great on camera. And here we are.
That's it. I mean, and I definitely, as we've joked for the last year, I definitely have a face for radio, and I'm not somebody that did this job lightly or took on this role. Jeff told me, when I had an opportunity to be on the Jeff Crilley show, and he goes, dude, you should do one. And I was like, no, Jeff, I'm good. This was like in July, August. And then I have some good friends like Ryan Ray, shout out, because that's how we met. Yeah. And my father, who are both critics, they're friends. They will tell me no on something. And they both said, you did a good job. I was like, dang it. And
if I can just, I've watched you grow, and I remember having a little pep talk with you before your first interview, and then you interviewed George P. Bush, and you were so excited, and now you just kind of roll in and just talk, and so I think you would have to agree that your skills as a communicator in general have increased, where you could go into meetings now with swagger because you've done live TV.
I have, and it's because of you. And those are 2 things that I do want to dive into more about with you guys and Real News. Is let's talk a little bit more about podcasting in general, and then also about Real News, because you've already mentioned twice Wall Street Journal, Fox News. So with the podcasting, you said it, Sarah, it has become a huge thing. I know in the oil and gas industry, there are now companies that are trying to do what you guys do on the podcast level at their own level, and they're making $1 doing it. So you have these other companies out there that have 5, 6 different podcasts, all in the oil and gas industry. Or, hey, you might even have now companies that are in the medical world that are doing podcasts, and advertising dollars are getting huge in that world. And so, what are you seeing as far as podcasting goes right now to where it is continuing to grow? Where do you think it's going to go, Sarah?
So I think that it's hard to even imagine where we'll be in 5 years, 10 years with the power of podcasting. Yeah. It's the audio platform, right? It's where you can hear it. So with companies bringing this to maybe their own home studio or out of their office, I think that the creative control that they have over having, hey, we're going to have anybody we want on our show, and we're going to make up the rules, and we're going to give you that inside behind the scenes, anything that we want to talk about. And that way they also have it archived in their library of content forever, which I think is very powerful. I'm going through some of Dad's old VHS tapes of when he was a TV reporter, and I'm getting choked up and emotional. And it's cool to be able to document your company's history as it's happening, I wish that, you know, you could have looked into the camera and say, all right, here's what I'm thinking as a TV reporter from, I guess, an outside lens of where you're at today, right? Looking, you know, the outside looking in, so to speak. But I think that it's just, you can be conversational, unrehearsed. And where the world's going is we don't want that filter anymore. We just want to be each other. You know, we want to sit down and hang out and have a conversation. We've taken it to the next level from the video side and investing quite a bit of money to make them look like glamorous TV studios, to be able to double down on the content, because that's important. So we love the podcast aspect. I love that companies are jumping on board and that we have an amazing library of content that people will be able to see for years of, well, here for years to come. But also I would encourage all of your listeners and viewers to start their own show, whether that's a Zoom recording just to get in practice, just to document the history and go all in, and then come check out a video studio like ours to make it that much easier. So you don't have to do the editing. You don't have to do the uploading. We do all that for you.
Well, let's talk about that for a second there. You know, I don't do this full time. This is not my full-time gig. I am in the oil and gas industry, just like a lot of other people are, but I'm out there. I'm boots on the ground. You know, we drill oil wells for a living. I got to go out there. I meet with pumpers. I meet with the drilling companies. I meet with landowner, the mineral owners. And so you just said something like, this is not a full-time gig. I enjoy it. I have been blessed. Jeff, I'm having a great time with this, but I've had to cancel going, hey, I've got an issue out in the oil field. I've got to get out there. Or, hey, you know what? I've got to move it back. I have an important meeting with somebody. And so there's a lot that I don't do that are behind the scenes. So let's talk about that for listeners out there that may not be computer savvy, because I got to do a shout out to Andrew Wyme, and it's Wyme. I'm not even going to say his last name, and I apologize. But that he has been my producer since day one on most of my shows. And Chris is here today, if I'm correct.
Yes.
And he's going to be doing the studio producing here at this location.
Shout out, Chris.
Hey, Chris.
And but he does all that work, and you guys have helped out. Y'all even helped me out with my intro.
Yeah.
And
I did
Jeff, you did the voiceover. So this is the face of the great narration for the Crude Truth. But let's talk about all the things that you can help people that are a little skeptical, but it's like, hey, they want to come do a podcast with real news communications.
Let me jump in on that one. Yeah. So I read an article in the Wall Street Journal about a year ago, and it was basically saying that podcasting is the new blog. It's the new hot thing that all corporations of any size are having to do. So you got these CEOs waking up every morning, hearing it from their marketing teams, like, hey, boss, when are we going to start the podcast? And they're thinking, well, gosh, what kind of ring light do I buy? Or who's going to edit the thing? And what we want to do is just make it simple for CEOs, that instead of hiring somebody to edit, upload, tag, buying the right lights, worrying about somebody's Wi-Fi, that they have locations. You know, right now there's 4 locations in Dallas-Fort Worth, 1 location about to open up in Austin. And as you mentioned, Houston is on my radar screen, and so is San Antonio. But in my dream world, in all 50 states, there will be locations like this one where you can just waltz in, sit down, interview people, leave. Yeah. We edit, upload, tag for just a few $100.
Yeah. No, that is what y'all do, and you can't go wrong. I mean, it is a way for somebody that's actually working in the industry they're talking about to come in, do a great show, and then that's it, you know. And so I can't complain, and I cannot thank you guys enough for the opportunity to do this.
It's our pleasure.
Absolutely.
And
I think what's happening is, you know, you have broadcasting, which is the world I came from.
Yes.
And now we're moving into what I call narrow casting. So if you went to Apple or Spotify or any of the places to listen to podcasts, you can put in very narrow words like oil and gas and find just your subject.
Yes.
And I think that's interesting because, when I grew up, there were actually like 4 television stations: ABC, NBC, CBS, and PBS.
Yes.
And then I remember in high school, we got cable and we had 30 channels. And I'm like, oh my goodness, how will I ever watch 30 channels?
Yeah.
And then along came satellite TV, and then came YouTube. And now there's a bazillion channels. There's a channel for everything. Mm-hmm. If you want to learn how to, play Stairway to Heaven on the guitar, you just go to YouTube and put in how to play Stairway to Heaven on guitar. And there's 15 tutorials. So I see this being, the future of broadcasting is tell your own story. Tell it in a professional setting rather than worrying about all the, the hassle of the editing piece. I mean, think about that. I do a show as many as 3 Jeff Crilley shows a day. You know this. And it's beautiful for me to just sit down, know that my producer is going to take care of everything. If the guest ended up saying something that they regret, or we showed a picture of somebody's ex-husband instead of by accident, we can kind of like go back in and fix that.
Yeah.
So I love it that we have the ability to go live mm-hmm. or look live, and look live is just basically you do it raw and then clean it up a little bit and then send it out.
And as PR people, we don't have to pray that the news editors are going to like it. You get to be your own producer. I mean, you're not running the buttons, but you get to be your executive producer mm-hmm. and the creative control and everything, which has been such a game changer for us because we get our clients on the news and we love the credibility and that our clients love it. But there's so much more to be said on their own show. They can grab a sound bite that they had on a national news station mm-hmm. and then expand on that. And we get a lot of questions. Hey, everybody's jumping into podcasting, so why should I do a podcast? I would say exactly. Everybody's doing a podcast. And you want everybody to be doing a podcast because just like, are you getting tired of watching movies? Well, do you like thrillers? Do you like the rom-coms, romantic comedies? You're just going to keep loving watching the new thing that's out. So I would say it's not too late to get into video podcasting. I think it's still very early in the content creation days. And to have that open mindset of, hey, I've got a perspective. My show's going to constantly be evolving. I'm going to have fun with it and not hear that head trash of, oh, everybody's doing this. We're still writing books. We're still making amazing movies, right? I mean, is that going out of style? Now we have audiobooks. I mean, it's just a new platform and a way to evolve. And in the early days, and Dad was a TV journalist, and I would say still a TV journalist in the new digital era. And my stepmom, Victoria, former reporters, they started this company with the idea of, okay, let's get our clients in the news. And this is how this is in 2008. And that was amazing. And then we started to add along the way some additional assets like websites and social media. And the company was growing and evolving over time. So now we say, when we started Real News PR, how exciting it was that clients didn't have websites and we were building websites for them to show off those amazing PR appearances. Yeah. Just, showing the amazing sound bites that they had in the news and what that looked like. And so I feel like we're in that next phase of it. Okay, now we get our clients in the news. Now the clients make their own news and then we showcase that online. But again, we're just scratching the surface and we get really excited because we don't know what the future looks like, but we're definitely eat, sleep, breathing every day and thinking about how can we showcase our clients and make them feel even better about telling their story.
No, you're absolutely right. And that's what y'all do. Y'all showcase. And I want to transition to talking about Real News PR. But first, you mentioned it. Jeff, let's, if you can give your, for the listeners out there that have not heard your story, sure. If you want to kind of tell that before we talk about the PR part, just to really show why it is that y'all are so darn good at the PR part. If you can sure. Tell us from changing, I'm sorry to cut, but I love your story about Fox, about how y'all were bought by Fox. So if you could start around sure. that time.
I don't know if I've heard this story.
Well, so I spent 25 years in TV news. So Lansing, Omaha, Minneapolis, and the last 15 years on the streets of Dallas, doing everything from murders and fires to corny dogs at the state fair. So I had a wonderful career, freed an innocent man from prison, won some Emmy Awards, did some really cool things. A life-changing event for me was I wrote a book in 2002 while still a TV reporter. The book was called Free Publicity, A TV Reporter Shares the Secrets for Getting Covered on the News. I ran around like a crazy man, giving 300 speeches a year for 6 straight years in addition to my TV job. Yeah. Breakfast speech, lunch speech, go to work at Fox 4. breakfast speech, lunch speech, go to work at Fox 4. I end up selling 70,000 copies of a little $10 book. And this is how the business is born, because as I'm signing people's books, they're either complaining about their current PR firm and how little they're getting and how much they're spending, or they're saying, Jeff, it's a do-it-yourself book. I'm never going to call the Dallas Morning News. I'll never call ABC News New York. Can I just hire you? Yeah. And I kept turning away the money. And then at the ripe old age of 45, I said, you know what? I think I have a second act. So I asked Victoria's permission to quit. It's important. Ask the wife.
Ask the wife, yes.
And she said, go for it. Go for it. And I quit, and I started this company in my home. In fact, Chris, our producer today, is employee number 1. I mean, Sarah, technically.
Hey. I started when I was 12 importing business cards into Constant Contact during recess. Maybe I was 11.
How about first W-2?
Chris is the first W-2. Okay.
Anyway, now, 20 full-time employees, 165 different clients on retainer. I just got the best life ever. I always, people say, how happy are you 1 to 10? I say 12. I mean, what could make me happier? I've got, I work with my son and daughter.
Yes.
I get to help people tell their story through multiple different platforms. And, think about what's happening right now. The gift that you just gave me is that I'm doing an interview with my daughter, and I don't remember the last time that you and I sat down and did
I think
interviews.
it was on the Rotary show talking about Rotary Club and getting the next generation involved in Rotary. And I remember sitting on set with you, and Real News on the communications video broadcasting had just started, and I was like, wait, you and I are like, this is weird. We're like well, you're used to being on camera. I'm not as used to being on camera. So I was like, wow, so this is what it feels like for our clients.
Well, you say that, but you have 2 podcasts yourself.
I do.
Yes.
Well, thanks to my dad just kind of kicking me in the butt and saying, Sarah, you need to do the Sarah Crilley show. You got to do this. You're going to do this. And I grew up wanting to be my dad when I grew up, and I still want to be you when I grow up. And so I went to school taking print, radio, and television classes. And you don't know this, but I couldn't read teleprompter. And so I would actually take my tapes back then and edit them and then send them to dad to see, look how great I am on teleprompter. But I would get so nervous.
Oh, wow.
And I fell in love with the editing and all the behind the scenes and making myself look great on camera, but I really wasn't.
Yeah.
And I really am not. But I have that perspective with our clients of like, hey, if I can do it, you can do it, truly. And now I've got my kids, Kaylee Jane, I put in the little podcast seat. She's not even talking yet. She's my baby. Our babies are about the same age.
Yes, they are, yes.
And so you got to bring your son in, please.
I'll do it.
The pint-sized podcast would be adorable.
They could just stare at each other.
Oh, they could.
No, they dabble. They're saying little words now. But she was making little coos and little cute, little giggles and stuff. And those are like special moments for me to be able to say to my prospective clients, hey, my daughter's podcasting and she can't even talk yet. So why are you holding off?
I like that.
That's a good idea.
That's it. The show's called Babble.
Babble, baby Babble. Well, you were talking about all the different channels. You were like, there's like 100 different channels. There's now a Baby's First channel. We switched over to Direct TV stream. Yeah. There's like a Baby's First channel now. And
really,
and then also you were mentioning, podcasts. CEOs are listening to these on their way to work.
Right.
Individuals that want to get better in some niche market are listening to these. My I guess I'll call it my brother show, Energy Newsbeat. They do a daily show every day. It's about a 30-minute show, and people are listening to them every day on their way to work.
Wow.
And it's like, so podcasts are really getting big. But okay, let's get to the PR real quick. And okay, you were at Fox News here in Dallas Fort Worth for 15 years.
Yes.
And you've mentioned, both of y'all, getting your customers on Fox News about, hey, let me be the one. Let's talk about that for a second and what you do there for your companies and what you've done for me as well.
Thank you. So I've always been good and gifted with the public relations stuff. Even when I was at Channel 4, I was giving people free advice, and then they would call me up and say, man, you're a genius. I met you at a Rotary speech. You told me who to call with the Dallas Morning News. I called Cheryl Hall. I'm in the Sunday paper. Go pick up the Sunday paper and see whose face is on the front page. Yeah. So I was good at it even in year one. But a turning point for me was I started to write a daily email. It now goes out to 28,000 journalists all over North America, into London, England, and the open rate is something like 26-27%, which is insanely high for a daily email.
Yes.
And so journalists trust me. And so when the times that I've put you in there, I know that every time I press send and it goes out, Ray, you're going to end up doing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 interviews. What's your record? What's the most number of interviews?
The most I've done in a day is 13 interviews.
13.
Yes.
And you were probably exhausted.
It was a full day. It was kind of one of those clear my schedule. Jeff has me doing. And of course, it's when oil goes up.
Yes.
Nobody ever wants to talk to me when oil goes down, Jeff. I can't figure that one out. But everyone wants to know about gas prices and when they go up. And nobody calls me and goes, "Hey, let's talk about why are the prices going down?"
And you're so talented at that. I mean, you've learned to, in TV, we call it tap dance. Tap dance is you don't know what they're going to ask you. It really doesn't matter what they ask you. You're able to rock and roll with whatever they ask you.
No, they'll ask you some stuff, some crazy questions. I know you've given me the opportunity to be on like Newsmax, Newsy, Spectrum. I know I missed one time because I was out in the field for Fox Business.
Oh, cool.
But those are the guys, and those are the companies, and you do CNN as well, or you mentioned the Washington General, but that is where you're getting your clients to be seen.
Yes.
And that's what part of your PR firm. Actually, that's a big part of what the PR firm does.
Yes, and the reason you want to do that is credibility. So if they come to your website and they see Fox, CNN, Wall Street Journal, USA Today, it's just presumed, okay, he's a national thought leader. So it's implied that you're a man of integrity. It's implied that you're smarter than the average oil man, and so it's almost like a badge of honor. It's good to have media clips.
Yeah. And then you the other thing y'all will do is that if one of your clients has a big live interview, you can host them at the Dallas studio. So if you get if somebody wanted to be on, I don't know who would want, Don Lemon or Sean Hannity, I'm just trying to be politically correct, I guess Channel 8 News, but they can't be in that studio, but they can be in your studio.
Yes.
They can be there and you can have your team ready to go to shoot live at the studio.
Yes. In fact, we've told that to all our clients that, if it's convenient for you, come to one of our studios and do the live talk back with local news with perfect lighting, perfect audio, rather than having to do it at home.
And the peace of mind, because there's nothing like a tech not working and then the news station's on deadline and then you may get bumped, and just come in the studio, rock up, do your interview, and you don't have to worry about all the tech and the behind the scenes at home, dogs barking, Amazon packages being delivered, babies crying, all the things.
No, you don't have to. And because sometimes I did one time and it was, okay, we're going to put your phone and you're going to do like this with your phone. Then you're going to, then you're going to hit the mic there. And then, okay, but we're going to have you on screen, but we're not going to listen to you on screen. We're going to listen just in case your screen freezes up. And you don't got to worry, again, you don't worry about any of that when you're there at the Real News studio. And Dallas is in such a great location. You've hosted, DFW sports legends there.
Yes.
You've hosted political giants there. You've got the studio has changing rooms, makeup. You got makeup artists there. You've got a welcoming team. So what y'all have there, definitely when a guest comes in, they feel right at home. They feel comfortable, and I think they almost forget that they're about to be interviewed on the Crude Truth, and y'all see my show. It's not like I'm, trying to hit somebody hard with a question.
Well, I'll give a shout out to one of our star employees. Her name is Lauren Hanna, and she is our director of First Impressions. We found her at the Glen Eagles Country Club, where she was a server, and then later a bartender, and then an assistant manager. And we just liked her spark. She had a glow about her. So she was kind enough to accept our offer to come over, and she has a list of all the shows that are coming in that day. So 15 minutes before you come in, she changes all the monitors in the lobby to Ray. Yes. So when you walk in, it feels like you're coming into your television network instead of ours. And your guests are like, "Oh my goodness, Ray, you're all over the place."
Yeah. No, and you have like in for listeners out there, you have studios that look like the national studios, and that your clients and your their guests come in and feel great. And Lauren makes a mean old fashioned.
She does. She can do a smoked old fashioned in the glass.
In the glass.
Full mixologist and barista in the morning. She can do Starbucks quality coffee and lattes.
Man, you can't go wrong with somebody.
Well, it's by design, right?
Yeah,
it is. You or your guests want to come in and you're like, oh man, I'm tired. We've got the espresso, and that's going to give you that jolt of energy for the show. If you need to relax a little bit, and I'm a little nervous.
Champagne before the show.
Yeah. And it helps because what you guys are doing, y'all have a that experience is second to none. And again, it's at any of your studios that experience with everything that y'all got going on. And
I think everybody has the same T-shirt. We're all wearing the same T-shirt. It says "Make me feel special," and this goes for anybody in any industry. When I call it extreme customer service. When they come into the Real News space, how do they feel about themselves? Are they greeted with a smile? Are they, respected and loved? And for many of our clients, I think this is their happy place. So, they could have stuff going on at work. They could have stuff going on at home, but they know Friday at 2, I'm going to come into the Real News studios and I'm going to feel special. This will be my cheers. This will be the place where everybody knows my name.
Aw, and that's by design, isn't it, Dad? Because you were, I guess kind of a stressed out journalist. You come into the newsroom, and what was that environment like? Because now as the boss, you get to create whatever environment you want.
The newsroom was kind of, I'm going to call it highly caffeinated, a lot of adrenaline, right? It wasn't necessarily a happy place because everybody's under a tremendous stress. The 5 o'clock news doesn't start at 5:01. It starts at 5.
Yeah.
We called it a bat phone. In the editing rooms, there was a bat phone. It would ring and a light would flash, and that meant it was the booth. And usually it was Crilley. We are 30 seconds away. I remember one time Clarice Tinsley, who's still there, is reading my lead in, and we're still putting finishing touches on it. And the bat phone is ringing off the hook. Crilley, where is the tape? And it was almost like broadcast news where we came running. And Clarice says, and Jeff Crilley has this report. And then we're like 1,000. Boom.
Wow.
We just made it.
I think you could do a whole podcast on the newsroom, like call it the news war room or something like that, or just talking about war stories being back.
Or just call it Babel. Sometimes it felt like that.
Sometimes I believe it. Well, guys, first of all, I cannot thank you guys enough, Sarah, Jeff. I definitely don't want to say that the pupil has become, because you two are just in a level, but just thank you guys for even coming on to the Crude Truth to talk about everything that's going on. Because what you guys are doing is amazing, and y'all are bringing out, without even knowing, y'all are bringing up more important issues, allowing people's voice to be heard.
Yes.
So just thank you guys very, very much.
And thank you for the honor of allowing us to be here together and interview as a father-daughter team.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun, right? Thank you.
Thank you guys. Sarah, I always like to ask people, if they want to contact you or to ask about the Fort Worth, the South Lake locations, how can they get a hold of you?
Absolutely. So our tagline is Real News PR, publicity at the speed of news, and video podcasting at the speed of news. All journalist, PR, and video podcasting studio. Check us out at realnewspr.com. And also you can check out launchashow.com to find out a little bit more about how you can work with Real News on launching your very own show.
Oh, and Jeff, you can how do people find you? And you can say the same thing.
What she said.
No, he has his own website, The Jeff Crilley Show, and also jeffcrilley.com. That's Crilley. I say all the time when I go to networking events, I say, so my last name rhymes with silly because we love to have fun. It's Crilley. And so then they say, hey, I need to be with that silly Crilley girl.
That should have been my intro right there. Hey, we're going to be silly today with the Crilley.
I'll say we're professional, but with positivity. We love
that's another show, Silly with Crilley. Let's
Oh,
hey,
watch out.
let's
She did have a bit called Really Crilley.
I had a bit called Really Crilley.
Golly.
This is too much fun.
This is this is a blast. And the other place they can find you guys, y'all are a sponsor of the Crude Truth.
Yes.
Just
Proud sponsor.
well, thank you for that. But also y'all's info is at the end of every show. So people can definitely get the info there on how to get in contact with you guys as well.
Outstanding.
Sarah, Jeff, thank you guys so much. I mean, it's awesome. And congrats on the new studio. This place is awesome.
Yeah.
For my listeners out there, definitely want to check this one out on the crudetruth.com or on YouTube and check out the new podcast studio. Thank you. And we'll see you next time on another episode of The Crude Truth.
This episode of The Crude Truth is brought to you by Oil and Gas Workers Association, Sandstone Group, Air Compressor Solutions, Basin Fluids and the Fuel Pros, and Real News Communication Network.
The easiest way to start your own podcast and TV show? Real News Communications Network. Stand out from your competition. Produce streams of high-quality social media content. Become a thought leader in your industry. With RNCN, you get to be the host. We handle everything else. Tour one of our 3 locations in Dallas, Fort Worth, and the Colony. Call 972-402-6333 or visit launchashow.com to find out more.